The rain came hard. It hit the metal roof of the crashed shuttle like angry fists from the sky. The wind howled through the broken trees. And in the middle of it all, Mason walked alone, his boots sinking into mud, his coat soaked to the bone. He wasn't looking for anyone. He was just scavenging like always. Humans were not welcome on this planet, but Mason knew where to walk, where to hide, and where to find useful parts in alien wreckage. That's when he heard something strange. Not metal creaking, not an animal growl. It was a sob. Mason stopped. The sound came again soft, shaky, like a child trying not to cry. He moved quietly, step by step, toward a shattered escape pod. Half of it was buried in the ground. The door hung open. Smoke rose from one corner. Inside, huddled under a torn blanket, was someone small. She had strange markings on her blue-purple skin. Her long hair was stuck to her face from the rain. She didn't look up. She was hugging her knees, shaking badly. Mason spoke gently. "Hey, are you hurt?" She gasped and looked up. Her eyes were wide, terrified. She tried to scoot away, but hit the metal wall behind her. Her body was thin to thinned. Her arms had scratches. She wasn't older than 17 in human years. "Won't hurt you," Mason said, raising both hands. "I'm just a scavenger. I saw your pod. Thought maybe someone survived." She didn't answer. Mason took off his coat and placed it near her without getting too close. "You're freezing. Take it." Still no reply. She just stared at him with those big, scared eyes. He sighed. "Okay, I'll go. But if you stay here, you'll die. The cold will take you before morning." Mason turned and started walking away. "That's..." When she whispered, barely loud enough to hear, "They left me here to die." He froze. The words hit him harder than the storm. He turned slowly. "Who did?" "My family. My clan," she said, voice broken. "They said I'm a burden." A flash of anger crossed Mason's face, but he didn't show it. He knelt down, still keeping his distance. "I don't care what they said." He replied, "You're not dying in this wreck." She looked at him like she didn't believe it. He reached into his backpack and pulled out an emergency heat blanket. "We'll get somewhere dry. Safe. I've got food, too." She didn't move. "What's your name?" he asked. "Vera." "Okay, Vera. I'm Mason. You don't have to trust me. But you've got a choice. Stay here and freeze, or come with me and maybe, just maybe, live." There was silence. Then slowly, painfully, Vera reached out and grabbed the blanket. She wrapped it around herself and crawled out of the pod. Her knees gave out the second she stood. Mason rushed forward and caught her before she fell. She gasped, tense in his arms, expecting him to strike her or yell. He didn't. He just steadied her. "Easy now. You're safe." Vera stared up at him, lips trembling. No one had held her like that before. No one had called her safe. Hours later, in a hidden cave near the forest edge, a small fire crackled. Mason cooked something from a tin. Didn't smell great, but it was warm. Vera sat wrapped in 2 blankets, still not speaking, still not eating. Her eyes watched everything, especially him. Mason placed the food beside her, not poisoned. "Try it." She said nothing. He smiled slightly. "You know, you're the first alien I've met who's more scared of me than I am of you." A small sound came from her throat, almost like a confused laugh. But she quickly looked away. He didn't push her. Instead, he lay back on the ground, closed his eyes, and let the fire warm them both. Later that night, Mason stirred awake. Something was different. He looked over and saw Vera still wrapped in her blankets, but now sleeping only a few feet from him. She had moved closer to the warmth. Closer to him, Mason watched her for a moment. Her face, though bruised and dirty, looked peaceful in sleep. Whatever had happened to her before, it was terrible. But now, maybe, just maybe, her story would change. He whispered to the dark, "You're not a burden, Vera, not to me." And for the first time in many nights, the cave was quiet. No tears, no cries, only the sound of fire, and the slow, steady breathing of 2 lives beginning again. The smell of cooked food filled the cave. It wasn't much, Just rehydrated meat cubes and dried greens heated over fire, but to someone who hadn't eaten in days, it was heaven. Mason stirred the pot slowly, glancing over at Vera. She sat in the shadows, back against the stone wall, legs pulled to her chest, watching him like a wild animal, unsure if it should run or stay. Her eyes had changed since yesterday, still tired. Still wary, but something new had appeared. Curiosity. Foods. Ready? Mason said, placing a small bowl on a flat stone near her. Still warm? I didn't poison it, in case you're wondering. Vera didn't respond. She didn't even blink. Mason sighed and returned to his own corner, sitting with his back to her to give her space. Suit yourself. She didn't touch the food. Not that hour. Not even the next. Only when the fire began to die in the night. Air turned colder did she finally shift. Quietly, slowly, she crawled closer. As if sneaking up on prey, her fingers trembled as she picked up the bowl. She sniffed it once, then looked toward Mason's sleeping figure just to be sure. Then she tasted it, one bite too. Then, like a starved beast holding back too long, she devoured every piece. She licked the inside of the bowl, afraid to waste even a single drop. She didn't know why tears filled her eyes. She hated them, but she let them fall. When Mason woke, he found the empty bowl placed near the fire, clean, like someone had washed it with effort. He smiled. She ate. That's a start. The next few days passed like small ripples in calm water. Mason taught her how to boil water, how to clean wounds, how to wrap a thermal blanket so it trapped heat better. He never asked questions, not about her family, not about her scars, not about what burden truly meant. Vera liked that. She didn't feel poked or judged. He let her breathe. One afternoon, Mason caught her watching him as he adjusted his old human communicator. You ever seen one of these? He asked. She shook her head. He held it out. Want to try? She looked at him, suspicious. Why? Because. You've been looking at it for hours? Vera hesitated. Then reached out, touched the buttons carefully. It beeped in her hand. She flinched. Mason laughed. Relax, it won't explode. She gave a small smirk, barely there, but it was the first time. Her lips had lifted in something close to a smile. Later that evening, Mason placed 2 bowls beside the fire, one for him, one for her. But Vera didn't reach for hers right away. Instead, she did something unexpected. She stood up, walked toward him, and held out a piece of root fruit she had found earlier that day. She dropped it into his bowl. A gift. Mason looked at her, surprised. Thanks, he said softly. Vera sat across from him, eating slowly this time, not like a starving creature. Mason broke the silence after a few bites, you know. Most people would have taken the food and run. She looked at him, confused. Why didn't you? Her voice was quiet. Because you didn't look at me like I was garbage. So that answer made Mason put down his spoon. The air grew heavy. You're not, he said firmly. Garbage, I mean. Vera didn't reply, but she kept eating that night. She didn't sleep on the far side of the cave. She moved her blanket closer to the fire, closer to Mason, not beside him. Not touching, but near enough that she could hear. His breathing, it calmed her. Her old home was filled with silence and cold words. This place had warmth, sounds of fire, and someone who saw her, not as a weakling, but as a person. Before sleep, she whispered to the fire, Maybe I'm not broken after all. Mason didn't hear the words, but he smiled in his sleep. The nightmares returned on the 5th night. Vera thrashed in her sleep, her blanket twisted around her legs. Sweat clung to her face despite the cold. She gasped for air, eyes shut, whispering something in her alien tongue, fast, panicked, like a child begging someone not to leave. Then she screamed. Mason bolted upright, reaching for his knife on instinct, but stopped when he saw her, curled up, crying, trembling. Vera, he called out softly, moving toward her. She shot up, eyes wild. He held up both hands. It's okay. It's just me. You were dreaming. But Vera didn't calm down. She lunged, slapped his chest hard, her breath ragged. Don't touch me. She shouted, then immediately froze, her face pale with fear. Her body stiffened like stone. Her eyes waited for something: retaliation, pain, a blow. But Mason just sat back on his knees. "I wasn't going to," he said gently. She blinked, confused. "You didn't hit me?" "Of course not." "Struck you?" "Yeah, I noticed." He chuckled softly. She didn't understand why he wasn't angry. "No. Punishment. No shouting, no shame. Just quiet." Vera's hands lowered. Her voice cracked. "I'm sorry." Mason shook his head. "Don't be. You've been through things I can't imagine. I just wanted to help." She stared at the ground. Her fists clenched. "My mother said I flinched too much. That's why no warrior would choose me. That's why I'd never bond." Mason frowned. "Is that how your people show strength? By hurting someone and expecting silence?" She didn't answer. "I don't want you to be silent," Mason said. "I want you to feel safe. It's more important." The next day, Vera didn't speak much. She spent most of her time near the fire, carving tiny shapes into a flat rock with the tip of a broken tool. Mason gave her space, but he noticed her glancing his way now and then like she was watching, measuring, wondering if the kindness from the night before was real or a trick. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Mason passed her a new blanket, softer, cleaner. Vera stared at it, then at him. "Why do you keep giving me things?" she asked slowly. He shrugged. "Because you need them." "Ever given me things without wanting something?" "I don't want anything from you." "Then why help?" Mason looked at her seriously. "Because one day someone helped me. I wouldn't be here without them. Everyone deserves a second chance, even if their own people say they don't." Silence hung between them for a while. Then, without a word, Vera reached out and touched his sleeve, just a fingertip. Just for a second, she pulled back quickly, her face red with shame, but Mason didn't react, didn't mock her, didn't move. And in that tiny moment, something changed. That night, Vera waited until Mason had fallen asleep. Then, quietly, she moved her blanket a little closer, just enough that their shoulders almost touched. Her hand hovered in the air for a long time, shaking, and then she let her pinky rest near his, not touching, but close. It was the bravest thing she had ever done. In her dreams, her mother no longer shouted. Her brothers didn't laugh. The cold cell she once called a bedroom no longer closed in. Instead, there was firelight, warmth, a voice that didn't demand, but offered. And for once, she didn't wake up screaming. Mason never mentioned the little pinky. The next morning, but he made extra tea, and when she sat down beside him closer than before, he simply handed her a warm cup and said, "Good morning, Vera." She didn't say it back, but her smile said everything. The rain had passed, but the cold stayed. Vera sat on a flat rock outside the cave, watching the sun rise through the mist. Birds she didn't know the names of sang in the distance. The air smelled like wet soil and smoke from their fire. Mason was inside, repairing his old rifle. She didn't tell him, but something inside her had started to feel lighter, like a chain had loosened around her chest. She could breathe a little easier, sleep without nightmares every night, but something still clung to her heart, like a shadow. The truth, the one she hadn't told him yet. The real reason she was left behind. Later that day, Mason suggested they head to the nearby stream. They needed clean water, and he wanted her to get some fresh air. She agreed. As they walked, she noticed how he kept a slow pace matching her steps, even though he could move faster. He didn't rush her, didn't lead like a commander. Walked beside her, like an equal. They reached the stream, and as Mason filled the canister, a noise came from behind the tree's hooves on dirt. Someone was approaching. A traveler at armed. A tall alien man rode into view, cloaked in dark green armor. He stopped when he saw them. Mason stood and placed a hand on his belt, where his blade was sheathed. The rider's gaze fell on Vera. His eyes narrowed. "You survived," he said coldly in the alien tongue. Vera froze. She knew that voice. It was her uncle, the one who had sealed the pod door. It's the one who told her to stay behind and accept your fate. "You know him?" Mason asked quietly. Vera nodded without looking. The rider dismounted and stepped closer. They said you'd die within a day. Looks like the humans have strange luck. Mason stepped between them. She's not going anywhere with you. The alien laughed bitterly. Don't flatter yourself. Human. No one wants her. That child is cursed, weak, broken at birth. Vera's fists clenched. Mason turned toward her. Is that true? She lowered her head, and then she spoke, voice shaking but louder than before. Yes, she whispered. They tested me when I was little. My bones, they're soft. My strength is below clan standard. I couldn't carry the Valen bloodline. They said I was ... defective. Her uncle scoffed. Even now she repeats it like it's her name. Mason looked at her. So they left you because of your body? No, Vera said. Her eyes were red, but she didn't cry. They left. Me, because I refused to kill a pet. Mason blinked. What? She looked down. They ordered me to strangle a beastling bare hands as part of the rite. I couldn't do it. I cried instead. My mother slapped me in front of the others. My father didn't stop her. I failed, and they marked me as useless. Her uncle spoke again. She couldn't even complete the trial of blood. What future would she have? What male would take her as mate? Vera finally looked up. Didn't want to kill just to prove I could. Mason stepped forward, voice calm but hard. You call her weak, but she's still standing. After everything, after being tossed out like garbage, she survived. That doesn't sound weak to me. Her uncle gave Mason a long stare, then turned to Vera one last time. Enjoy your exile. It suits you. He mounted his beast and rode away, disappearing into the trees. Mason turned to Vera. She had sat down on the ground, arms around her knees again. He sat beside her, not touching, just close. Why didn't you tell me before? He asked. Because I thought, if you knew how pathetic I was, you'd leave too. He looked straight ahead, then said, You're not pathetic. You're principled. You chose mercy over cruelty. That's not weakness. That's rare. She didn't answer, but she wiped her eyes, and then she said something that surprised even herself. Thank you for not seeing me like they did. Mason smiled softly. I see you exactly how you are. Vera. That night, back at the cave, she didn't sit beside the fire like before. She sat beside him, and when her hand brushed against his, she didn't pull away. It started with the smell burnt wood and sulfur. Then came the silence. No birds, no wind, just stillness. Mason knew that silence. It was the kind that came before something terrible. He dropped the small bag of herbs he was sorting and looked toward the cave entrance. Vera was outside, practicing with a spear he made from scrap and sharpened stone. Her movements were still clumsy, but better than a week ago. He had taught her how to hold it, how to balance her feet. She was trying. That meant everything. Vera, Mason called, stepping out. Do you smell a loud snap echoed through? The trees. Vera spun around, eyes wide. Then, from the shadows of the jungle, glowing yellow eyes appeared, 6 of them. Beasts, not ordinary ones. These were armored stalkers. Local predators that hunted in packs and moved like liquid shadows. Mason had only read about them. He had never seen one in person until now. One growled, low and hungry. Another stepped forward, bearing sharp, wet teeth. Vera froze. She dropped her spear. Mason moved fast, pulling her behind him. He drew his hunting blade with one hand and raised a burning branch with the other. The stalkers didn't flinch. They're not scared of fire, Mason muttered. The lead beast pounced. Mason swung hard, fire flashing through the air, catching the creature's side. It screamed, but 2 others rushed in. Mason fought fiercely, but he wasn't superhuman. A claw slashed across his arm. Blood splattered on the dirt. Run, he shouted, but Vera didn't move. Something inside her snapped not with fear, but with fury she grabbed the fallen spear. Her heart pounded like war drums. She remembered the trial. It's the one she failed as a child. The beastling she couldn't kill. Her mother's disappointment. Her clan's disgust. Now, A real monster stood before her, and this time, someone she loved was in danger. Vera let out a scream not of fear, but Rajan charged. The spear jabbed forward, shaking in her grip, but landing true. The beast shrieked. Mason blinked in shock. As the creature collapsed beside him, killed by the girl who once couldn't even step on an insect, another stalker leaped. Vera moved between it and Mason. She slashed wildly, her strikes untrained. But full of fire, it backed off. Mason used the moment to rise and slice down the last attacker. The jungle grew quiet again. The beasts were gone. But so was the firewood. The cave was smoking. They limped aside together. Vera's hands were trembling. Her knees almost gave out. Mason sat down, blood dripping from his shoulder. She rushed to him. No, 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 no. No, you're hurt. Why didn't you run? He gave a weak grin. I've seen worse. Vera bit her lip. Her hands hovered over the wound, unsure. Touch me, Mason said softly. It's okay. Ch. She pressed cloth to his wound, her hands steady now. This is my fault. He winced. Why would you say that? They were drawn to weakness. That's what I am. He said firmly. They were drawn to firelight. But you became fire, Vera. She blinked. What? He smiled, his voice rough. I've seen warriors freeze when danger comes. You didn't. You stood. You fought. You protected me. Vera swallowed hard. I didn't protect you, she whispered. I need you. Mason raised a brow. That doesn't make you weak. That makes you human. She looked at him for a long moment, then said something she hadn't dared to believe before. Maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I'm just different. Mason nodded. Different saved my life tonight. That night, Vera didn't sit near the fire. She sat beside Mason, carefully wrapping his wound. She didn't tremble when her hand brushed his chest. She didn't flinch when his fingers rested briefly on hers. She didn't sleep far from him anymore. And when she finally lay down, her head gently resting near his shoulder, she whispered, I won't let anyone hurt you. Not again. Outside. Smoke still lingered in the air, but inside the cave, something burned brighter than fear, trust, and a second chance for them both. The fire had burned out, but the warmth between them remained. For the first time, Vera slept without waking from fear. Her head rested against Mason's side. His bandaged arm was over her shoulder, heavy but comforting. It was quiet, peaceful, but peace never lasted long on this world. Just as the first light of dawn broke through the cracks in the cave wall, a sharp beep, beep, beep echoed from Mason's old cum device. He sat up quickly. Vera stirred. What's wrong? Mason checked the screen, his expression darkening. Someone's nearby. Too close. She stiffened. How many? He looked again. One ship. Could be military. She knew instantly. No, she whispered. It's them. They didn't have time to run. The ship landed just outside the tree line. A massive dark figure stepped out, golden armor shining in the morning light. His presence made the air feel heavier. Vera stayed behind the cave wall. Heart pounding, Mason stood outside, unarmed, hands open. The alien warrior approached slowly. His sharp eyes scanned the area before landing on Mason. You, he growled. The human who dares to keep what does not belong to him. Mason didn't move. She belongs to no one. Silence, the warrior barked. Where is the girl? The one marked unworthy. Vera stepped out. Mason tried to stop her, but she brushed his arm gently. She walked forward, chin raised, shoulders squared. I'm here, she said clearly. The warrior tilted his head. You've grown. I lived. She answered, That was not our wish. I know, she said, bitterness in her voice. You all made that clear. From the ship, 2 more figures appeared, her mother and her older brother. Same cold eyes, same perfect armor, same disapproval. Vera's mother stepped forward, her voice like ice. You were supposed to be gone by now.
I was Vera.
Replied, but someone found me. Someone treated me like I mattered. Her mother sneered. A human? That's what you call protection now? Mason finally spoke. She didn't need protection. Just respect. Vera's brother stepped in, glaring. You've made our clan look weak. No, Vera snapped. You did that when you left me in a broken pod like trash. Her mother's eyes narrowed. We came to give you one chance. Return now. Stay silent. Hide your shame. And we will let this human live. Mason stiffened. Vera looked down, breathing hard. Then she said the words none of them expected. I'd rather die with him than live under you. A silence fell. Her brother's hand moved to his weapon. Mason stepped forward. I won't let you touch her. The golden warrior raised his hand. Stand down. Enough. He walked to Vera, towering above her. His voice was low. You could have had a place. A quiet one. But now you spit on your bloodline. She stared him dead in the eyes. That bloodline spit on me first. Then she did something braver than any fight. She turned her back on all of them, and walked toward Mason. Her mother gasped. Her brother growled. The warrior said nothing, but his face tightened. When Vera reached Mason, she took his injured hand gently in hers. Her body trembled, but not with fear, with pride. This is my choice, she said. I found a home, a real one. The warrior gave a sharp nod. Then we declare you dead by blood and by name. Vera didn't flinch. I already was. They turned and left. No final words. No regret, just silence. As cold as the day they abandoned her. When the ship lifted into the sky, Mason finally exhaled. You didn't have to do that, he said. Yes, she whispered. I did. He looked at her face. No tears, just strength. He squeezed her hand gently. What now? He asked. Vera looked toward the horizon, where the trees danced in the breeze. Now, I live my own story. The jungle had changed. It wasn't just trees and beasts anymore. Now, it was a path and narrow trail that led to a small clearing where a house stood. Not big, not perfect, but strong. Mix of wood, stone, and salvaged ship parts. Human design. Mixed with alien curves, two cultures. One life, Mason stood on the roof, tightening solar panels. Below him, Vera carried baskets of herbs and berries from the garden she had grown with her own hands. She wore no armor. No, clan markings. Just a loose tunic and a soft smile. She had never smiled like this in her old life. Inside their home, a wall was covered with drawings. Some were crude sketches Mason had made maps, stars, survival tips, but most were hers. A flower she had never seen bloom, picture of the stream where she first spoke freely, a rough but sweet image of Mason holding a mug, yawning like he always did at sunrise. Above it all was a word painted in her own shaky handwriting. Family. One afternoon, while collecting water, a child from a nearby alien village wandered into the clearing. He had large eyes and curious hands. He stared at Vera wide-eyed. You're the exile, he said innocently. Vera didn't react. He pointed at Mason, who was fixing a fence. And he's your servant? Vera chuckled softly. No, silly. He's my person. Like a mate. Paused, then nodded. Double quotes. Yes, like a mate. The child tilted his head. Is it true you used to be weak? Vera knelt down. Maybe. Or maybe they just didn't understand my strength. The child blinked. You don't look weak now, she smiled. Thank you. He ran off laughing. Vera stood there for a while, her heart full. That night rain returned. Not a storm, just a soft drizzle tapping the roof. They sat by the fire. Mason sipped his tea. Vera leaned into him, head on his shoulder. You know, he said, when I found you, I thought you were going to bite me or something. Vera laughed. I was thinking about it. He grinned. But you didn't. She looked up at him. Because you looked at me like I wasn't broken. You never were. She grew quiet, then asked softly, Do you ever wonder what your life would have been like if you hadn't found me? Mason turned to face her. No, I don't wonder. Not? He reached up and gently touched her cheek. Because this is the life I wanted. Outside, the rain washed the jungle clean. Inside, two hearts beat in rhythm. One human, one alien. Both once alone now, whole. And in the quiet, Vera whispered a promise not to him, but to the world. They abandoned me. He accepted me. Erased me. He saw me. They left me with nothing, but he gave me everything. Home wasn't just walls. It was a place where you were wanted, where scars didn't make you less, where second chances became beginnings. And so, in a quiet corner of a wild world, an alien girl and a human man built a life that no clan or system could take from them, together forever.